It was a typical Friday evening at Sterling and Company, the office buzzing with the last-minute rush to finish tasks before the weekend. I, Anaya, was just about to leave when the unexpected happened. My boss, Victoria Hayes, colleagues called her ice-cold Victoria for her razor-sharp demeanor and unapproachable aura, had asked me to help her with some files in the storage closet. "I need these sorted before Monday," she said, her tone curt, as always. I nodded, trying not to show the nervous flutter in my chest. I'd always admired Victoria from a distance, the way she carried herself, sharp, poised, and intimidating, yet somehow magnetic. The closet was cramped, barely enough space for 2 people. I started stacking the folders while Victoria double-checked the inventory. The fluorescent light flickered above, casting shadows that seemed to dance across her sharp features. Suddenly, there was a loud click, the door had locked itself. Panic rose in my chest. I rattled the handle, but it wouldn't budge. Victoria's usually impassive face showed the tiniest flicker of surprise. "Well," she murmured, her voice low, "looks like we're stuck here for a while." I swallowed hard. The close quarters, the dim light, the sound of our breathing in the small space, it all felt strangely intimate. I tried to focus on the files, but my hands were trembling. Victoria leaned against the wall, her eyes meeting mine briefly. I felt a spark, something unspoken, something electric. Minutes stretched into hours. We talked, first awkwardly, then slowly more naturally, peeling back layers I hadn't seen before. Victoria spoke of her childhood, of the pressures of being the youngest CEO in the company, and I shared my dreams, my frustrations, my love for art. At some point, the conversation faded, replaced by silence. And in that silence, every glance, every brush of her hand against mine as we shifted papers felt like a small jolt of electricity. I realized then that there was a side to Victoria no one ever saw. Beneath the ice-cold exterior was a warmth, a vulnerability that she didn't show to the world, but somehow, here in the closet, it was there. The first part ends with the realization that being trapped together is slowly breaking down walls, both physical and emotional. The tension is palpable, and the air seems charged with unspoken feelings. Hours had passed, yet the closet felt both confining and strangely liberating. The initial panic of being trapped had faded, replaced by an awkward yet intimate companionship. The hum of the air conditioner was the only sound as we stood side by side, sifting through files, our shoulders brushing occasionally. Each touch sent a shiver down my spine, though I told myself it was just the cramped space. Victoria remained poised, her usual commanding presence softened by our shared predicament. She leaned against the wall, arms crossed, eyes scanning the papers I held. I caught myself staring a little too long, captivated by the curve of her jaw, the sharpness of her gaze softened by fatigue. "Anaya," she murmured suddenly, her voice low, almost hesitant. "Do you ever feel like people only see the surface of you?" I blinked, startled. Her question was intimate, vulnerable even. Most of our interactions at work were strictly professional, orders given, tasks executed, emotions hidden. But now, in this small, dimly lit closet, she was opening a door I didn't know existed. "Yes," I whispered, stepping a little closer than necessary. "I think we all hide parts of ourselves, parts we're afraid to show." Her eyes lingered on mine, and for a moment, the air between us thickened. I felt my heartbeat quicken, a warmth spreading through me I couldn't ignore. She shifted slightly, closer, and our hands accidentally touched as we reached for the same folder. Neither of us pulled away immediately. Instead, we let the touch linger, fingers brushing lightly, electricity sparking in that simple contact. "Do you ever regret being so distant?" I asked softly, emboldened by the intimacy of our situation. Victoria's lips twitched, almost a smile, though her eyes betrayed a flicker of uncertainty. "Sometimes," she admitted. "But distance keeps people from seeing the cracks, the weaknesses." I wanted to tell her that her cracks were what made her human, that they drew me in rather than pushed me away. but the words caught in my throat, lost to the tense, charged air. Time seemed to stretch unnaturally. We talked in whispers now, sharing stories we'd never shared with colleagues, laughing softly at small confessions. There was a magnetic pull between us, subtle but undeniable. A playful nudge here, a shared laugh there, each gesture carrying more meaning than it would in a normal office setting. Then, without warning, she reached out, tucking a loose strand of my hair behind my ear. Her fingers grazed my skin, lingering just a moment too long. My pulse quickened, and I realized with startling clarity that the ice-cold boss everyone feared was now standing impossibly close, her presence overwhelming, intoxicating. In that dim closet, hours away from the world outside, the line between fear, respect, and desire blurred. The spark between us had ignited into something more, a quiet, simmering tension neither of us dared to name yet. The hours dragged on, yet the closet seemed suspended in its own private world. Every sound outside, the distant echo of office chairs, the hum of fluorescent lights, felt distant and unreal. It was just Victoria and me, two souls caught in an unexpected confinement, drawn together by proximity and curiosity. I noticed the subtle changes in her demeanor. The sharp edge that usually defined her was softened, her posture less rigid, her eyes warmer, even playful at times. And yet, every so often, that cold, calculating gaze would flicker back, reminding me of the barrier she instinctively kept up. I shifted slightly, trying to find more space in the cramped closet, but in doing so, I bumped into her. "Sorry," I murmured, but Victoria's expression held no irritation, only a teasing, unreadable glint in her eyes. "You're not sorry," she said softly, stepping closer. Her voice had dropped an octave, husky and intimate. "I don't think either of us is." My stomach fluttered. There was an undeniable tension, a pull I could neither resist nor fully understand. She reached for a file on the top shelf, and our hands brushed again, this time, deliberately. Neither of us pulled away immediately. Instead, we lingered in that fleeting contact, hearts racing in sync. For a moment, I dared to look up. Victoria's gaze held mine, intense and unflinching. In that silence, the closet seemed to shrink further, the walls closing in, bringing us impossibly close. Her proximity was intoxicating, her scent, subtle but captivating, the warmth radiating off her body, the way her fingers still tingled from our accidental touches. "I've never been like this before," she confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. "With anyone. Especially not, like this." I swallowed hard, my own voice trembling slightly. "Me neither." The unspoken words hung between us, heavy and electric. Slowly, almost tentatively, she reached out and tucked my hair behind my ear, letting her fingers trail along my cheek. The touch was gentle but charged, like a spark igniting a slow-burning fire. I felt the urge to close the distance, to bridge the invisible line that had kept us apart for so long. But there was hesitation too, a delicate dance of curiosity, desire, and fear. We stood there, inches apart, breaths mingling, hearts pounding in unison. And then, without warning, our hands met fully, fingers interlocking, holding each other as if anchoring ourselves against the storm of feeling swirling between us. Her touch was both commanding and tender, the paradox of Victoria Hayes distilled into a single moment. The air in the closet seemed to thrum with anticipation. Time had slowed, the world outside fading into irrelevance. In that confined space, every glance, every brush of skin, every heartbeat carried a weight neither of us had expected, but both had longed for, perhaps without even realizing it. In that tiny, dimly lit closet, the ice-cold boss and her nervous subordinate were no longer The closet was quiet now, the hum of the office fading into a background murmur we barely noticed. Victoria and I stood closer than before, our fingers still intertwined, the heat between us impossible to ignore. The tension had built into something electric, a magnetic pull neither of us could resist any longer. She tilted her head slightly, her eyes searching mine, and in that moment, the barrier of authority and professionalism dissolved completely. The confident, ice-cold exterior was gone, leaving only the raw, vulnerable woman beneath it, vulnerable and just as curious about me as I was about her. "I shouldn't," she murmured, though her voice was soft, almost pleading, betraying the conflict within her. I shook my head slightly, stepping closer, my breath mingling with hers. "Why shouldn't we?" I whispered back, my voice barely audible over the rapid beat of my heart. "We're here. Now. And no one else is watching." Her gaze dropped for a fraction of a second, and when she met my eyes again, there was an undeniable hunger there. Slowly, tentatively, she leaned forward. I closed the gap instinctively, feeling the warmth of her breath against my lips before our mouths met. The kiss started softly, exploratory, tentative, as if both of us were afraid to make the first bold move. But the hesitation quickly melted away. Every brush of lips, every gentle press, sent shivers down my spine. It was intoxicating, thrilling, like discovering a secret world hidden just for us. Her hands moved to my waist, pulling me slightly closer, deepening the kiss. My hands tangled in her hair, holding her as if I never wanted to let go. The world outside ceased to exist. There was only the two of us, pressed together in the dim light, discovering the unexpected intensity of a connection neither of us had anticipated. When we finally broke apart, gasping for breath, our foreheads rested together. Her eyes, soft and unguarded, held mine with a mixture of awe, desire, and something I couldn't quite name. "You," she breathed, her voice trembling slightly. "You're different from anyone I've ever known." I smiled, heart pounding, fingers still intertwined with hers. "And you," I whispered, "are nothing like I imagined. More alive." The hours stretched on, and we stayed there, wrapped in each other's presence, exploring the newfound intimacy with whispers, soft touches, and lingering glances. Every accidental brush, every shared laugh, every quiet moment between kisses heightened the intensity. By the time the faint light of dawn seeped under the closet door, something fundamental had changed. The professional distance that had defined us was gone. In its place was a simmering, undeniable connection, romantic, sensual, and electric, a spark that neither of us could ignore, no matter how cold the world outside remained. For 12 hours, we had been trapped together, but in that confined space, we had discovered something far more profound. By now, the initial thrill of our first kiss had settled into a more tender, simmering connection. We were still in the cramped closet, bodies close but careful, savoring the quiet intimacy that had blossomed over the past hours. Victoria leaned against the wall, her head tilted slightly, watching me with an intensity that made my heart stutter. "You know," she murmured, voice low, "I've never felt this way before. About anyone." I swallowed hard, my fingers brushing against hers. "Neither have I admitted softly. It's overwhelming." She let out a small, almost nervous laugh, the sound so unlike the commanding voice she usually used in meetings. "Yes. Overwhelming is the perfect word." The tension between us shifted, moving from the thrill of forbidden desire to something more emotional, more vulnerable. Victoria shared stories I hadn't heard before, moments of loneliness behind the corporate facade, times when she had longed for connection but kept everyone at a distance. Her walls, once impenetrable, had begun to crumble in this tiny, shared world. I, in turn, revealed my own insecurities and desires, how I often felt invisible in a world that demanded perfection and control. She listened, truly listened, and for the first time I saw the woman behind the boss, the side of her that craved affection, understanding, and closeness. Our hands remained intertwined, fingers laced tightly together as if neither of us wanted to let go. And as we spoke, the small space around us seemed to shrink even more, the air thick with anticipation and unspoken promises. Victoria shifted closer, her forehead resting against mine. "I don't want this to end," she whispered. "I don't want us to go back to pretending. I nodded, pressing a gentle kiss to her temple. We don't have to pretend anymore, I replied, my own voice trembling. Not with each other. Her eyes met mine, dark and intense, a mixture of fear and longing swirling in their depths. Slowly, deliberately, she brushed her lips against mine again, softly at first, then with increasing intensity. Every touch, every kiss, every sigh spoke volumes that words could never capture. The closet, once a mundane storage space, had transformed into a sanctuary, a place where barriers melted away, and desire mingled freely with emotion. Time became irrelevant. The outside world, the office, rules, expectations, ceased to exist. There was only this moment, only us, only the quiet, intense, and unrelenting pull between two women discovering something forbidden yet inevitable. And as we clung to each other, holding on to the warmth and connection that had sparked in the most unlikely of places, I knew that 12 hours in a closet had changed everything. The ice-cold boss everyone feared had melted, revealing a woman capable of passion, tenderness, and vulnerability. And I had fallen, completely and irrevocably, for her. The first rays of morning filtered through the slats of the office blinds, casting soft lines of light across the cramped closet. Outside, the world was waking up, oblivious to the events that had transformed two lives in a single night. Inside, Victoria and I remained entangled, reluctant to break the cocoon we had created. The door suddenly rattled. My heart jumped, panic mingling with the remnants of our intimacy. Someone's coming, I whispered, stepping back slightly. Victoria's hand shot out, gripping mine, holding me still. No, she said firmly, her ice-cold authority returning for a fleeting moment, though her eyes betrayed amusement. Not yet. We quickly composed ourselves, smoothing disheveled hair and straightening our clothes, but there was no hiding the subtle warmth, the lingering traces of what had happened. I noticed her watching me with that same intensity, the flicker of desire still alive in her eyes. Finally, the janitor's voice called out, "Office opening soon." The rattling stopped, and the sound of footsteps faded. We exhaled simultaneously, relief washing over us. Victoria leaned close, her lips brushing my ear. "We need to talk, properly," she murmured. Her hands lingered on mine, thumb brushing lightly, sending a jolt through me. Outside this closet, things are different, but I want us. I want this. I nodded, my own chest tight with anticipation. I want this too, I admitted, my voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions inside me. We left the closet together, stepping into the office that was slowly coming alive with the sounds of coworkers arriving. Yet, the world felt smaller somehow, more intimate, because we knew the secret we now shared. There was a shift, an unspoken acknowledgement of what had begun in that tiny, dimly lit space. Over the next few days, our interactions carried a new depth. Subtle touches, lingering glances, whispered jokes, they were all reminders of that night, the closeness we had discovered, and the barrier we had crossed. Each moment was a thrill, a secret shared only between us, growing into a bond that could not be broken. Victoria, once the untouchable ice-cold boss, revealed herself slowly, allowing glimpses of tenderness, humor, and affection. And I, once the nervous subordinate, found confidence in our connection, daring to meet her gaze with unabashed desire. Eventually, we found a rhythm, balancing professionalism with intimacy, letting the world outside remain unaware of the fire that burned quietly between us. And every time we were alone, even in the smallest spaces, the memories of that closet, the whispered confessions, the stolen touches, the first kiss, reminded us that some moments, some connections, could never be undone. 12 hours in a closet had changed everything. It had revealed hidden desires, softened walls, and sparked a love neither of us had expected.